Kamala Harris yelling at protesters is obviously not a good look. And before you make that knee-jerk reaction in that comment section, hear me out first before you respond. Context matters, and it's always important. Harris did this at her Michigan rally, the swing state Michigan. Here's a headline of an article that came out in March. Will angry Arab American voters swing Michigan away from Biden? In that article, it talks about how more than 100,000 Michiganders, 13% of Democratic voters, voted uncommitted in the states in the February 27th primary. Remember, context is important. Michigan is the home of the largest Arab American population in the nation. By voting uncommitted, they signaling to their administration there's a risk of losing the Arab American vote. Which brings me to some more important context. I know there are sentiments of, man, we can't care about what's going on across the world right now, man. We got to take care of home first. What about domestic issues? Those were Arab Americans, American citizens that's had hundreds of their family members wiped out with American tax dollars. American citizens being worried about their family members being wiped out with American tax dollars is a domestic issue. Here's more important context now before I start getting more into my explanation. Former President Trump won Michigan in 2016 by less than 11,000 votes. Biden won by 120,000 votes in 2020. There's an estimated of 200,000 to 300,000 Arab American voters in that state. And although not all are eligible to vote, we know that that demographic will, in fact, determine where those electoral college votes go for Michigan. Here's more context. It's important to also acknowledge that those protesters at that Michigan rally had actually met with Vice President Harris before the rally, and here's what they said happened.
You briefly spoke with the presidential candidate, Vice President Harris, on Wednesday before she addressed that crowd where she was interrupted by Pro-Palestinian solidarity protesters. Can you talk about where you were when you talked to her and what you said?
In my exchange with her, I got very emotional. I told her, my name is Layla, I'm Palestinian. And in that moment, I was thinking about my community. I was thinking about the two community members I had just spoken to the day prior who told me they had lost over 100 members of their family each in Gaza. And I told Vice President Harris that I said, right now, Michigan voters want to support you, but we need a policy change that is going to save lives in Gaza right now. My community members are losing tens to hundreds of their family members. Will you talk to me about an arms embargo? Will you talk to Uncommitted about an arms embargo? Will you meet with us? And she said yes, she would meet with us. And so I did feel, I was very emotional in that brief exchange. I did feel like her sympathy and empathy towards me was very genuine. But Palestinian children cannot eat words. We need more than sympathy or empathy. We need action. We know that Kamala Harris's stance right now is not an arms embargo. We know that the policy of the White House is not an arms embargo, which is why we asked her if she would meet with us to talk about an arms embargo.
Before I make any more points, this should be noted. Kamala's campaign has been making strong choices to show that they are listening to voters and plan to win. These are wins for the left who said they didn't want Biden, and they didn't want Shapiro. Even when folks who were insisting they shouldn't speak up and shouldn't push for what they want. And it's in fact what happened. To refresh everybody's memory, in 2012, there were protesters that disrupted Obama at rallies, literally talking about the Dreamers Act, Obama cave. They got DACA policies, and the election was not disrupted. Or stating simplistically another way, you can't use Kamala can be pushed as an argument for why people should vote for her and then be mad when people try to push her through protest. And that's what me acknowledging if Trump becomes president, you probably won't be allowed to protest. In case it's lost on people, and it has obviously, you have the most leverage to push a candidate when they're afraid of losing, not after they've already won or taken office. Please stop rationalizing going easy on Harris based on these backwards theories you've settled on. And to the people in the back saying, but I don't care about that, I got to protect home first. In America, don't we talk about wanting free healthcare, access to healthcare? Don't we talk about getting college debt wiped away? Well, we give billions of tax dollars to a country that's able to give their citizens free healthcare and college free. That's an American issue, right? And listen, I know there are people like, why don't those anti-war protesters interrupt Trump? As Nina Turner stated simply, protesting a man they would not vote for, who would not listen to them, is useless. They're protesting someone they believe is movable. Protesting Trump on something like this is like going into a car wash to order food. You can order some food, but you're not going to get it. As has been stated before many times, our struggles are connected. The Atlanta protesters have linked Cop City to the Gaza war. We literally send law enforcement from America over to the Gaza and West Bank for them to share strategies about how to police. In the recent presence, Israel's military in Atlanta is embellic of the decades-long partnership between U.S. and the apartheid state and sharing strategies of control through violence in America and apartheid state too, but I'll say that for another video. The difference between people on the left and the right is supposed to be the ability to hold your person accountable. It's supposed to be the ability to criticize your person and to be able to give them critiques when you feel like what they doing in terms of policy is not what you asking for. It is not a good look for Kamala to disenfranchise or further push away uncommitted votes that she need in order to get into that White House. It is also immoral and unethical to tell American citizens that have been burying they, you know what, they can't even bury their people because they under rubble. It is unethical to tell them they should not care about their family members that's under rubble because America is giving taxpayers dollars to a country to quote unquote defend itself. Meanwhile, it's taking out thousands of women and children that are related to American citizens.
I'm gonna have to Dr. Umar this into y'all. Look, all right, the protesters were not leftist. The uncommitted movement was started by Arab Democrats. The protesters were not leftist. The uncommitted movement was started by Arab Democrats. The protesters were not leftist. The uncommitted movement was started by Arab Democrats. The uncommitted movement has its strongest and most impactful foothold in Michigan. Michigan, which compared to a lot of other states, has a relatively high Arab population. The reason it's so powerful in Michigan is because it's a swing state. And in that swing state, there are real people who have lost actual family members in Gaza. So I need you to take off the online glasses, the TikTok glasses for a second. I'm a leftist. And I talk about things. The protesters at that rally were not far left weirdos like myself. They were Democratic constituents connected to the real lives of people in Gaza. What's happening here is a very disingenuous lumping together of these groups to dismiss their point.
Last few statements I want to make. Yelling back, I'm speaking at protesters for standing against G-side does not require courage or spine. It does not show leadership. It's being tone deaf and cowardly. In fact, protesting G-side for 10 months while sacrificing employment, graduation, family, friendships, even one's safety that takes integrity and courage. Standing up against G-side is honorable. Keep disrupting war criminals while they fund G-side. The reality is, a lot of y'all definitely would have been the black folks saying the civil rights protesters was doing too much and making things bad for the rest of all of us, and they should just fall in line and be patient and just wait. They'll get their chance. Protests are supposed to disrupt. They're supposed to interrupt business as usual. They're trying to change, mitigate situations by interrupting and disrupting with protests. Ain't it supposed to be one of the cornerstones of American freedom? Yeah, education is elevation. I hope this video helps.